Hello and welcome back to Live from Paris here on France 24. It's time now for Campaign Chronicles, our daily look at this year's race for the French presidency. Today we're talking about the socialist candidate, François Hollande. He's the front-runner who's been rather pushed off the front pages in recent days by Nicolas Sarkozy's entry into the campaign fray last week. He's fighting back now, though, by publishing a book. To shed some more light on this, I'm joined now by our press reviewer, Elena Casas. Hello, Elena.
Hello, Lorna.
Right, so Hollande's turned his hand to writing, has he?
He has indeed. Now, this is in the context, as you were saying, of him getting rather less media attention since Sarkozy joined the campaign last week. There's actually a poll out today on the front page of 20 Minutes, the free magazine, which has them almost neck and neck in the polls at 27 and 28. And there was nearly a 10-point difference in like a week ago in all the polls. So he's falling behind a little bit. So what to do? Publish your book. Now, it's called Changing Your Fate. And here he is on the front page of the Nouvel Observateur, which is publishing some exclusive extracts from it today. Now, what's in the book? Well, it explains the fundamental principles of his political beliefs, what got him into politics, how he was inspired by François Mitterrand back in the 80s and to go forward. So he talks a lot about the tradition of the French politics and about his own personal life and what drove him to join politics. But he's got some big campaign themes in there as well. Principally that of justice. He talks a lot about ordinary working people and making a fairer France for them. He talks a lot about meritocracy and helping people move forward on their own merits. He says that the working class has been forgotten over the course of the last few decades in France, and that's led to outsourcing of jobs and factories being closed as the jobs go to other countries, and all of this, which he says is a consequence of liberal in the economic sense, politicians forgetting about the working classes. And he says he's going to bring them back into the centre of his campaign. His other campaign theme in there is truth. He talks a lot in the book about corruption, about the number of scandals that have exploded recently under President Sarkozy, and says he's going to clean up French politics. Now, his campaign team apparently are still feeling rather confident. According to an article in Libération today, they say that they're putting this book out today. You can buy it in bookshops from tomorrow. And despite the fact that Sarkozy is moving back up in the polls just a little bit, they're very happy that Sarkozy's policies have swiveled to the right, rather, in the last week or so, giving Hollande lots of space to manoeuvre on the left in terms of policy and clean up votes.
OK, but despite all that, François Hollande's still seen as having a weak spot, isn't he? And that's foreign policy.
Yes, and it might not necessarily be improving anytime soon. According to an article in Le Parisien, they say he's cancelled a number of planned trips to the US, Brazil and Africa, among other places, where he was meant to be meeting foreign leaders in order to instead concentrate on campaigning here on the ground in France. And so, you know, his known absence, if you like, of foreign policy experience might not necessarily be improving. There's also the question of Europe, where the left is managing to tear itself apart again, according to Libération's front page today. They say the left caught in a European trap. They're talking about the National Assembly vote here in France yesterday on the new Greek bailout, in which the Socialist Party was completely divided. Some backed it, some said voted against it because in solidarity with the Greeks, of course, and others abstained. So the left-leaning paper says he needs to find a more concrete direction on Europe. Otherwise, when he becomes president, he won't be able to negotiate with other foreign leaders. But for some, he's still Europe's biggest, brightest hope. That's what the Spanish newspaper El País is saying. Spain, of course, a country where the Socialist Party has just suffered a quite crippling election defeat. But they say he's the left's biggest hope for the future of Europe. And if he is re-elected, that could shake up the whole of the European picture, because he would be the only really important centre-left leader left on the continent.
OK, and moving quickly from the left to the far right, bad news for Marine Le Pen yesterday.
Yeah, she lost an important court decision yesterday. She was trying to get the system of mayors having to nominate a presidential candidate before they can be on the ballot paper declared unconstitutional. She lost, but what exactly is the complicated problem that she's complaining about? Oliver Farry explains.
It's a setback for Marine Le Pen, which could jeopardise the National Front leader's chances of running for president. Le Pen is still 70 sponsor signatures short of the 500 from elected representatives required to enter the presidential race. On Tuesday, France's Constitutional Council ruled that sponsors could not remain anonymous, as Le Pen had requested. She says many elected representatives won't sponsor her out of fear for their careers.
If we needed any proof that Marine Le Pen is the only candidate of the French people against the political elite, then I thank the Constitutional Council for furnishing us with this proof today, whereas 60% of French people have called for anonymity to be respected and the overwhelming majority of small-town mayors wanted anonymity. They all say the system is no longer working. The Constitutional Council decided to allow a deeply anti-democratic system to continue.
The council ruled that the insistence on disclosure is constitutional and that it does not violate the secrecy of the ballot box. But Le Pen says the system works against smaller parties.
The rules are not the same for all candidates. The Socialists and the UMP snap their fingers and they have their sponsors, while we have the greatest difficulty.
The far-right candidate has until the 16th of March to reach the 500 signatures. Her campaign team is working hard to try and plug the gap. Le Pen says the task is hampering her ability to campaign.
Oliver Farry there. Well, thanks very much indeed, Elena, for today's Campaign Chronicles. And you can keep following the French presidential race with us every morning at 9:50 until the big day. That's it for now. Thanks for joining us. More news after the weather.